Plainfield, New Jersey-based Landmark Developers, which specializes in restoring and renovating historic properties across multiple building types, celebrates its 20th anniversary this year. The company is unique in that it is also a designer, a builder through its in-house construction team Black Dog, and a property manager through its Landmark Hospitality division. Joining us today to discuss his company and the sectors it serves is Frank Cretella, Landmark's president. Frank is also principal with Landmark Multimedia, which develops interactive advice sites. Welcome, Frank.
Welcome. How are you, John?
I'm fine, thanks. Thanks for doing this. Frank,
My pleasure.
now that you're going into your third decade, can you recount for us how your business has evolved along with the industry?
So, I have to say early on, because we were in the hospitality business, even before that, I have to say three principles really guided us. And one of those principles is the fact that we always try to keep our business as personal as possible, whether it's with our team members at each location, or the construction company, the development company. And we did that by really trying to eliminate the mundane, those things that are necessary, but take your time away from working with each other or, the guests, in the final part of operations. So that enabled us to really keep a close relationship on what was developing, what new trends were coming, because we always had that, I'm going to call it a luxury, because it really is a luxury of time. So I have to say hospitality basically is a simple business. And it's simple because, the main goal in the end is to create great memories for your guests. Everything else kind of takes care of itself after that. Your business does well if you did a good job at creating that memory for every guest that comes. So over the course of the years, I think that a big change that I saw was that going out to eat really became a social event. It's how people got together. People viewed it as a form of entertainment, so we early on were an adopter, and we still do it. I just love mixing the back of the house with the front of the house. So we have open kitchens. We have wine cellars in our dining rooms. I like to create that connection, back of the house, front of the house. And I think the guests like to see the excitement of what's behind the scenes. You're getting a kind of behind the scenes look. I think that's a trend. The restaurant is really the extension of people's homes. And, I was on another panel, and the big discussion was in these cities, how the apartments have gotten smaller, and there's this nomad kind of aspect to people's lives. They want to travel, work at different places. And I think that nomad style calls for a place where people can gather. So I think it's the hotel lobbies and the restaurants and the lounges and the rooftops. Their apartments are too small. So those are kind of the big trends. I have a counterpart in the business who I respect a lot. And he has a different view when it comes to design. And his trend is he likes to make people feel uncomfortable when they walk into the space. And his thing is, the shock and awe. And I like to make people feel comfortable when they walk in the space, but to see a space that has so many artisanal details that they're attracted to keep on coming. And I always get the impression people will think they really look good sitting here or in this private dining room. It's how you create an emotion. I like to treat one of being home in somebody's living room,
One of your company's specialties is adaptive restoration of landmark and historical buildings. What led your company to gravitate in that direction?
Well, I happen to love historic buildings, and it's a piece of history. I live in a historic home. I renovated a historic home. Um, I think as far as a business goes, the biggest part of it is it gives you a great story for the end user. There's so much history in the building. Like I'm talking to you now from the former operating room of Dr. Livy's home, which was also his office, who serviced the town of New Hope for years and years and years. And, when this property is done, we'll have Livy's bar because it's in the operating room. So there's all these histories. The Logan Inn, which is, 2 doors down, is the oldest inn in America. There's so many ghost stories about the property. So many people have gone through the doors in the course of 300 years. I mean, it's just amazing. You can't get that in a new build. My favorite, however, is melding the two, because I like to take these historic buildings and bring them to a point where they're self-sufficient with a business inside of them. And then the business inside of them, hospitality, allows people to enjoy the space, to enjoy the features, enjoy the grounds of these great properties. But sometimes it requires that you have to expand it or do another building on the property in order to give it adequate resources to create profits. I think a lot of historic buildings today, a lot of them owned by different municipalities, are falling in disarray because they're expensive to upkeep. You have some are owned by nonprofits, and the nonprofits find it difficult. But I think longevity-wise, if you could establish a landmark business in a landmark, and I say a landmark business, one that's going to be there for the long haul, you gave that property the ability to be maintained and prosper for centuries, possibly. I mean, look at the Logan Inn. It's been an inn for 300 years, almost.
Frank, just out of curiosity, is the Liberty House in Jersey City, that restaurant, is that a historic property?
No, that's an interesting story. That property was a failed project by a chef out of Manhattan, and it was just the steel up when we saw it. So and we completed the construction. It was at a time that really started our company over again as Landmark. And we were able to leverage completing that building and got paid for it. We didn't own that building. It's one of the few buildings we don't own, but we got paid by the developer to complete the construction. We used our profits then to finish the interior and operate a business. So it was really a unique situation that at the time really worked well for us. We were just getting restarted with Landmark. So capital was an issue, and it worked out well.
Frank, given the fact that you have a kind of a soup to nuts type business model where you're doing, from the start to the finish, and then after the building's completed, operating it, what that puts you in competition with a lot of different people. And I'm wondering, can you share with our audience what are the advantages and challenges of that type of business approach?
So, I view myself as only having one competitor, and that competitor is other developers. So all those other modalities that we have, like development, design, and construction, and of course operations for the ultimate, really give us the leg up on those other developers. I also think as a company, we're not competing for those locations that developers would normally go after, like, the busy intersection or the hotel site, next to an airport. we look for unique sites that have a lot of character, adaptive reuse or historic building, usually just outside of a major city, not even in a major city. But we look for those sites. So even on the development side, I think our vision is different for the majority. Now, once we control a property, we're hiring architects to work with. I mean, we lead the design, architects to work with, engineers to work with, attorneys, the whole gamut. And we have our go-to architects that we have a good working relationship with. But, we also like to use new architects because they do help put a spin on it. And, it's not that we're very closed-minded. This is how we do things. Everything we do is a collaboration, and we have a unique insight because we're operating the hotels and the restaurants and the rooftop bars. So we know what works.
You know what you
get
want.
Feedback.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, do you look for any specific characteristics when you're hiring architects, engineers, and contractors? Is there any kind of common thread that attracts you to one versus another?
So I got to tell you, I'm a bit of a fan of how Marvel operates when they do a new movie, and they'll pick a romantic director to do one of their superhero movies. So we're doing a project now on the water in New Hope. It's a 300-foot site right across from Lambertville. Beautiful views. Our vision is a 45-room inn hotel with a great rooftop amenity, not a rooftop, but a platform amenities deck off the rooms, a great restaurant. We're going to use a residential architect to do that design because I'm looking for that perspective. I'm looking to pick up that kind of vernacular for this project.
Yeah.
And, we're in the process right now of interviewing. So it's not necessarily a common thread. It's what we're trying to accomplish at the times. I do have one architect I use a lot who is more for a new build. Like we're doing a new hotel over a historic bank. So there it was very important that the new build be very light and airy because it's sitting behind and over the bank. So I go to him for that. I have another architect that I use a lot that has actually, he just finished a nice project for us in Jersey City in Park. It's called View at Lincoln Park. It's a new build. But he likes to use mass timber construction.
Oh, okay.
And so it's very visual on the interior, and a lot of your finishes are taken care of just in the structure. So it depends on what we're doing.
I noticed recently you made public that you're looking to expand into distilleries and entertainment venues like casinos. What will you need to do within your organization and externally to crack into those sectors?
So we're looking. Let me tell you first why I want to do it. So because we do so many events, mostly weddings as a company. I mean, we did 2,300 weddings in 2019. So we're forming a special bond with so many people, so many couples, the families of the couples, because a wedding is a very personal thing. And we want to try to take those people and take them with us on a journey so that, celebrating an anniversary, that's a no-brainer. But, let's say when they baptism or a christening, or, just to get with their friends, or maybe one is a professional and they do a lot of entertaining, to use our facilities. So we're really trying to grow into a lifestyle brand. So we, as a company, have always done a lot of, for lack of a better word, programming. We have cocktail classes, wine dinners. Each one of our venues has 4 nights a week with musical entertainment. We do art shows out in the gardens. We try to create memories. That's our goal, by offering all these different things. So we're trying to expand that. So we're trying to develop a festival company right now that we're doing in-house. We have a pretty large marketing department we're looking to add to. The distillery is something that I have a tenant already on one of the properties that we're developing, that's in the stable building. So that we can't have ownership in a distillery because of liquor license laws.
Right.
But I really went out and sought to have a distillery on the property, because distilleries by nature, people get to tour the distillery. Distilleries tend to run a lot of events to attract people to their brick and mortar. And we want that. Not that we would profit beyond rent on that, but it's another thing for our core base to do and experience with us. Nightlife is something that we're looking now at a possible joint venture or an acquisition to bring that in, because that takes a certain skill set, and I'm too old for that. And I mean, I'm up at 4:30, so I'm not going to the clubs at night. So we're looking for a certain skill set for that.
Frank, my last question is, we've gone through a year and a half of COVID right now. The economy is starting to open up finally. What do you think? What do you think hospitality, the word, the concept, is going to mean perceptually to patrons and operators? And what changes, if any, do you think your firm might need to make, or adjustments to anticipate some of these attitudinal changes?
So it's interesting, from a design perspective on that. I think everybody always wanted cleanliness, and I mean that's a given. That's just the standard, just to be in the business. The places need to be clean. But I think there's a perception. So in our design, we don't have dresser drawers in our hotel rooms. We have our carpenters hand make a great hung on the wall cabinet with some cool shelves in it, so that it's just a little bit different putting your stuff in an open space as opposed to enclosed drawers. Nothing touches the floor except obviously a portion of the bed. Everything is suspended, so you get to see the corners. I think visually, we just changed out all our door locks. We're giving people the option to have, they pull into the parking lot of the hotel and they get notice that they could download their key and go directly to their room if they want to avoid that. So we're doing all that to give people options. So I think it's our responsibility to give them great places for them to enjoy themselves and to get together with friends. I think things are going to be, I don't think anybody's ever going to forget this. I think on the business side, there's changes that are going to be with us permanently. A lot of people, I'm sorry to say, have left our industry. And that's sad. It's sad because we love this industry. We had pre-COVID had started a hospitality school as part of our foundation. And I think, it's up to us to get across that hospitality. There is a path, there is a career path where you could be very successful in hospitality. I think part of that is educational. I think that we're going to have to learn how to do more with less people, because I think this labor crunch is not going to end in September when the added benefits end. I think it's a permanent kind of thing. It's that's what we're working on right now. We're looking at how do we attract, keep all different age groups within our industry.
Frank Cretella, Landmark Development, thanks for joining us and sharing your thoughts for a couple minutes. Good luck through the remainder of the year.
Thank you very much. Thank you, John.
And this is John Caulfield from Building Design and Construction. Thanks for joining us.